Hello there and welcome to another video from Fantasy Football Scout. Today we're going through another draft, this time with one of our pro pundits, Zophar. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Andy. It's been an exciting transfer window for Chelsea. I'm hoping the transfer of Havertz is confirmed in the next few days, along with Thiago Silva and Chilwell.
Yeah, things are looking pretty crazy for Chelsea. Like we had Gianni on yesterday doing a draft, and obviously he's a Chelsea fan too, so it'd be interesting to get your point of view. I should just say, Zophar, by the way, 7 top 10k finishes in like 11 seasons. So modest that he had to double check that before we started recording. So a great manager, someone we should definitely listen to. So yeah, as always, we're just going to jump straight into the draft. I'm going to ask a few questions around some of the picks, not all of them, as we both kind of talked about before we started shooting. The likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, we kind of know why he's in at this point. One player that I've seen a few people starting to talk about Spurs defence, but not necessarily Ben Davies. I think a lot of people are drawn to maybe Eric Dyer instead. What do you make of Spurs defence, and in particular, why have you picked Davies as your kind of main man there?
So I'm largely basing my decisions on what I saw for teams over the restart rather than the period before. So over the restart, Spurs conceded only 8 big chances, with only Wolves conceding fewer. That's 6. They conceded only 7 goals, which is the 4th best, and only United, Wolves, and Man City were better than that. Now, during this whole time, a lot of us had Aurier as a pick, assuming that he's the most attacking option. But Davies had an XGI of 0.43, whereas Aurier was 0.31. So he actually had the highest XGI of any Spurs defender over the restart. I mean, 0.43 by itself isn't great, but it is what it is. So I do think that this season there is a small threat of rotation with Sessegnon, but I do feel Cess might be used in the Europa League with Davies in the league. I think he's a Mourinho player.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that about the stats, because when you watch the game, it always feels like Aurier is the one going forward and Davies kind of makes a back three. But I must admit, in some games I saw, there are times obviously when he gets forward, it's not like he's stuck as a centre back for the whole game. So it's kind of interesting that his stats are slightly better. And obviously there is speculation. You were talking about transfers just a minute ago, that Aurier might leave as well. So there's not even that guarantee. So it'd be interesting to see who comes in instead. So Davies is basically your highest priced defender that's not Trent Alexander-Arnold. Have you thought about putting anyone else in there, like a Doherty or a second Liverpool defender or anyone like that?
See, I didn't want to go put in a second Liverpool defender primarily for 2 reasons. Number one, the fixtures aren't really great defensively to start with. And number 2, I want to have the possibility of bringing in a second Liverpool attacker if they start like the season on fire. Maybe like somebody like a Mane instead of a Kevin De Bruyne in game week 3. So I don't want to pigeonhole myself by loading up on 3 Liverpool right at the start.
Yeah, because at that point then you've got to use 2 transfers to kind of switch up. So yeah, that's actually something I hadn't considered. I'm always wary about putting in players like Keita or Firmino because of that exact thing. But yeah, I never thought of it from a defensive point of view. And like you said, the fixtures are not that fantastic. Let's talk about Vinagre, because he's in everyone's teams right now. 4.5 million. Obviously, there's a bit of worry about maybe them signing a left back. I mean, is there any reason not to go for him, do you think?
I mean, I need to have somebody from Wolves because they conceded only 6 goals over the restart, and over the entire 2019 season, no team conceded fewer big chances. And Nuno is a defensive manager. He's going to keep the system. And Vinagre, from when he was on the pitch, whatever limited minutes, he was quite attacking. So I know there's some talk about them signing Maitland-Niles, but I think that's more as cover for Doherty, who's apparently off to Spurs. So there's definitely like no reason not to on Vinagre. Maybe something changes closer to deadline, but he's been in my first draft and not moved since.
Yeah, I find that whole situation at Wolves a little bit weird because Maitland-Niles, like you said, is touted to go there, but he is predominantly a right-footed player to play on the right. So I don't see why he would come in for their backup left back either. It just doesn't really make too much sense for me. So
and they don't have Europa League either this season, so they don't really need as much depth. So there's talk also about something about Gulam and all that stuff, but that would put Vinagre then 3rd in the pecking order.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. We'll have to wait. Obviously, we have to wait and see. And obviously, if Gulam comes in, he could get a good price as well. There's no saying that he'll definitely be 5.5 million. So we'd have to, wait and see on that. Looking in goal, right, 4.5 million goalkeeper. There's not obviously very much choice there. Have you got any kind of thoughts about going more expensive than that, or are you a kind of 4.5 million set and forget kind of person?
I don't think I've ever started any of my 11 seasons with anything other than a 4.5 goalkeeper. So I really don't look anywhere else for that. So this season, it pretty much came down to just two candidates, McCarthy or Ryan. And I felt McCarthy had better fixtures. And overall, Saints were the fifth best defense over the restart. They were sixth best for shots on target conceded. So stat wise, I felt Saints were much superior to Brighton.
Yeah, fair point. And obviously, you always leave the space open if you need a different 4.5 defender or something. There's always Lamptey or someone to go to from Brighton as well. Let's talk about, obviously, Salah again, a very popular pick. But let's start off in midfield with Ziyech, because obviously you are a Chelsea fan. And I know you wrote an article about Ziyech. What's your thinking there? Do you think he can hit the ground running? Chelsea hasn't played for a long time. I think it's something like 5 or 6 months since he played like a competitive game. So does that worry you at all?
I mean, the advantage with Ziyech is that he actually started training with the Chelsea team right over the restart period. So he's been with the squad, sort of integrating for a longer period than a usual signing would have been. And from what I've seen, I think he's a very good player for fantasy. He's not a Modric type who's going to be assisting the assists. He's usually very direct and on the end of things. And he comes across to me as a player who measures his own performance in like numbers, like assists and goals. Like Eden Hazard, many times you see him have a man of the match performance, but it's not translating to goals or assists. Ziyech doesn't come across like that to me. So there's that. And also I've kept him in mind as a possible placeholder for Greenwood in game week 2. So if we don't start well, Chelsea, then we can easily switch over to Greenwood next week.
Yeah, and obviously then as well, you saved that 0.5 million. You mentioned Havertz at the start. Obviously, I asked Gianni a very similar question yesterday. But the great thing is for Chelsea, lots of squad depth. They're going to be able to compete on all levels, and obviously very, very good players that they've brought in. Like, it's a very exciting time as a Chelsea fan. But have you got any worries about rotation? Because if Pulisic is fit and Havertz comes in, there's Mason Mount as well. Do you think Ziyech and Werner and players like that are going to get enough minutes?
I think they will get minutes, but once Champions League proper kicks around, there will be some rotation. I think what happened a lot of last season, we overplayed Mount a lot. You could see towards after the start, his performance and energy levels faded. Similarly with Abraham, to a certain extent with Pulisic as well, we've seen he's quite prone to injury when overplayed. So there will definitely be chopping and changing, but somebody like, I think Werner especially, I think he's probably, other than Kante, the only other world-class player that Chelsea really have on their books. And Lampard traditionally is not somebody who rotates as much. As we saw last season, he found a winning combination, then he usually stuck to it the next game.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, Neil used to say the same thing on the team news videos, actually, that once Chelsea are doing well, it's actually very rare that Lampard rotates. So if Werner and Ziyech and co start well, it could just be set and forget for the rest of the season. We'll have to wait and see. Similar price point, right? You got Danny Ings. Now, I feel like I haven't seen him in many drafts, but interestingly, the 2 draft videos in a row we've done on the Scout channel both have Danny Ings. Have you got any consideration for someone else for that spot, like a Jimenez at the same price, or do you just think Ings is going to repeat last season?
I mean, that Ings spot, actually, the only player I'm really debating switching him to is Harry Kane. So before we get into Kane, I just want to go into the merits of why I've picked Ings. Now, I'm sure you've heard of talisman theory by who got the assist. So 13.5% of all of Saints' points were scored by Ings, which is the highest of any player across the league. So what I do at the beginning of every season is that for every team, I prepare a list of players who I feel are the most likely to be involved in their attack. Because I don't believe in coverage. Certain players like your Vardis, Kane in his peak, like back in the day, we tried to cover Kane with somebody like Ericsson and Dele Alli. It doesn't really work. You can't cover these players. So a lot of times what I try to do is I try to pick the talisman from the team if I can. And if I can't, then I try to avoid that team totally. Like a lot of times we try to cover Vardy with Madison. It worked to a certain extent with Barnes, but it doesn't really like work. So I try to put as many talisman players I can in my team rather than just bit part players. And Ings fits the bill.
So you've got any concerns about him dropping off from last year? Or when you pick your team, is it just a case of he was in form last year, there's no real question to doubt, no real reason to doubt that until you see him drop form? Because he's basically been in form for a whole season. So do you have any worries about that?
I mean, it's a bit unique because you look at the gap between the close of last season and the start of the season. It's not really very long. I think it's 4 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that. It's much shorter than usual. So I see no reason for, because I've always rated Ings as a finisher. Even at Burnley, even at Liverpool, when he's been on the pitch, he's put goals in. So I'm not really that apprehensive about Ings, and I can easily downgrade him to somebody like Adams if I feel that Adams kicks off like on a good note.
Yeah, I
Pretty
think.
confident about Ings there.
Yeah, no, it's fair point. I think Adams stats wise is very similar to Ings. He's not too far off really, especially since lockdown. Like since game week 30 to 38 at the end of last season, the only problem there is obviously starts. Whereas Danny Ings is going to start week in week out. You mentioned Harry Kane as a potential option for that spot. Let's say you want him game week 1 alongside Werner. How would you fund that? Like, which player would you think would be the one you downgrade?
Ziyech probably to somebody like a Pereira.
Yeah,
That would give me the plus 2 million that would be needed.
And is he so? Because a lot of people don't necessarily go for promoted team players straight away, but is he someone you think could do well starting off in the league?
I think so, because along with Mitrovic, I think he's one of the few players who was involved very heavily in all the goals for West Brom. I think he had something like the 8th highest shots. Neil did an article, or I remember saying he had the 8th highest shots, highest big chances created. He takes all the set pieces. So again, it fits along with my talisman theory. If they score, he's very likely to be involved. And what's the thing is, there's a lot of perception about these teams when they were previously that when I first see West Brom, I think Tony Pulis, I think Higazi, I think Macaulay, Evans. It's not the same team anymore under Bilic. They're quite an attacking team. I think they scored the most goals. I think the second highest number of goals at home, or the most goals, something like that. So there's him, and there's also another player like at 6.0, James Ward-Prowse. So probably between the two of those guys for that 6 billion spot.
Yeah, you think the double up on Southampton could be good? Think the fixtures are good enough?
I think so. I generally think they're the best team outside the top 6.
Wow, okay, that's a big call. I mean, there's a lot of teams now outside the top 6. Obviously, with Arsenal finishing outside as well, so there is a lot of top teams now, with Wolves in there as well. So, yeah, it'd be good to see if they can keep up those performances, because it wasn't exceptional.
Especially in attack, I think, for example, they're even better than Wolves.
Oh wow! Well, yeah. To be fair, Wolves, especially again, if you're thinking kind of since lockdown, etc., when the league restarted, Wolves didn't score a huge amount of goals. There was some games, I think the Everton game, they put 3 or 4 past them, but there was a lot of 1-0s in there. So yeah, no, that's fair. Fair comment.
And the stats back me up, because they were 6 for XG Saints over the entire season last year. It's 57, and you have to keep in mind they were a different team after that Leicester result.
Yeah, completely different. I mean, that was a bit of a game changer for them. You talk about stats a lot, and obviously you said your team is kind of chosen via stats, like predominantly, or they play a big part in that. Just really quickly before we talk about any more players, what kind of stats do you look at, especially for attackers? Like, you're an XG man, do you look at shots in the box? Because I think your article said that Ziyech, for example, he likes to take a lot of shots, which is great for FPL, but not necessarily from inside the box. So what kind of stats do you look at for when picking?
I mean, XG I always look at, but XG, I prefer to look at non-penalty XG, because a lot of times the penalty is distorted for some players such as Rashford, who get 20 penalties a season. So there's probably XG, I would say shots in the box. And another stat I really like is big chances created, because I think that distinguishes you from somebody like Maddison, who's going to create 20 chances a game, which are not going to get converted.
Yeah, fair point. And obviously, this wasn't touted as a sales pitch, but obviously, if you do want that info, we do have a members area on Fantasy Football Scout. There is a link in the description below, just while we're talking about it. I know it's heavily used by lots of the pro pundits. Let's just talk about the big hitters for a little second. Aubameyang and Salah, very popular, of course, because they do play in game week 1, unlike Man City and Man United. Do you have a general plan in your head right now about how to get Man United, Man City players, or even if you want them in kind of the next couple of game weeks?
I mean, Man United, I sort of want entry in game week 2 when they play Palace. So if Marshall starts the season on fire, I don't mind switching out Werner to Marshall. And similarly for Greenwood, I could go Ziyech to Greenwood. And the advantage is Chelsea play Liverpool in game week 2. So it sort of transitions.
Yeah, and
pretty well.
And you also save a bit of money as well, because Martial's 0.5 cheaper, Greenwood's
both ways.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be priced out. Like they're both downward moves.
And what about Man City? Is it because a lot of people are doing Aubameyang to Sterling or De Bruyne in game week 3? Is that kind of in your thinking?
Game week 3, pretty much. That's pretty much in my thoughts as well.
And which one, Sterling or De Bruyne, if you had to pick right now?
I had De Bruyne all of last season, and he would be the first pick on my team. As a Chelsea fan, he's really the one that got away
Yeah.
from us. So I love watching him play. Like Trent, Salah, and KDB. These are three players who I need to own if I'm going to watch them. Otherwise, it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean. That's like those decisions shouldn't necessarily come into our thinking, but they do. I hate watching Liverpool,
I
for
mean, we play
example,
for
without Trent.
fun. We play for fun, right? If I'm not going to have fun, then there's really no point.
Yeah, no, excellent advice. I do like Sterling, but if there's any indication that De Bruyne has penalties, I just don't see how I can look away from him.
I'm very confident he'll have penalties. I think last season what we saw at the end was just everyone grabbing goals and all that stuff. But I'm very confident he'll remain on penalties.
Oh yeah, I mean I've got no doubts that Sterling's not on them. It's just whether Aguero gets them back.
Yeah.
But I feel like De Bruyne just came in and took them so well. I don't think he missed either. And
Yeah, the confidence and swagger he had while taking them was nowhere near. Because I've had Aguero for a lot of penalty misses. He missed his fair share.
yeah, great goal scorer, but not necessarily the best penalty taker.
No.
What about Salah then? He's your captain, I see, for Game Week 1. Obviously, a lot of people like Aubameyang against Fulham. Is Salah one of those players that's kind of like, not necessarily a season keeper, because we do change players around during the season, but is he like one of the first names on your team sheet?
Yep, I think he's actually a bit undervalued this year at 12 million. I think I would have gone with 12 and a half for him again, because the pick between him and Mane with penalties is quite easy with Salah. And I've right now got him penciled down as my captain for game week 1, 3, and 4. Because I like him against Arsenal at home as well.
Yeah, I again, not to try and agree with everything, but I do like. I feel I've said this before. I think FPL made a mistake pricing him the same as Mane, because it took a decision out of people's hands. If he's 0.5 million more, like you say, then maybe some people scrimp and save to get Mane, but the same price is tough. All right, let's talk about the last two players we've not really touched on. Saint Maximin, obviously. Everyone that wants to put in like the likes of Ings, Aubameyang, etc., you need to have some cheaper players in there. He's only 5.5 million. Is he someone that at some point you're going to try and upgrade if you can, or are you just happy for him to tick over at that price?
See, that like I've mentioned on my earlier cast with John T, I look at price points, and this year there are quite a few options at 5.5. There's Harrison over at Leeds, who I really like, someone I'm monitoring. So this position is between Armstrong and ASM for me, and both had similar stats over the restart period. 1.74 XGI for ASM, I think 1.8 for Armstrong. But if I can find at 0.5, James Ward-Prowse, his XGI is 3.95. That's more than both of them combined. So I don't mind having a look at James Ward-Prowse also for that spot if I downgrade Davies to somebody.
Yeah, I'm just trying.
Whatever else.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how you could get 0.5. I guess Ziyech to Greenwood or Davis to a 4.5. Have you got, just to kind of finish off, have you got any, is there any chance that you might start with the Man United player and just bench them, or do you think you're just going to start and use transfers? Because like I said to Gianni, a lot of people have got this plan where they're going to transfer in Man United players, but there's obviously other players that could come to the fore that you might want to bring in as well. And then you're starting to talk about hits maybe, or missing out on some players. So do you think there's any chance you'll start with a Man United player on the bench?
I don't think so. I prefer to put my money on the pitch. If I can see that 7.5 or 9 million can get me some points elsewhere, I'd rather go for that. And the thing was with buying a United player in game week 2, I don't mind taking a hit for buying him because the fixture run is quite good for the next few game weeks after. You can buy a United player and he'll definitely repay you 4 points, etc. over 4-5 game weeks.
Good stuff,
So
yeah.
I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, I think it's good to have a rough plan in it. And I don't know, sometimes there's bandwagons you have to ignore anyway. And perhaps if you've already got a transfer locked in, that might help you ignore that bandwagon. Is there anything else you want to add about the team or talk about before we shut this one off?
Nothing else. Did we touch upon the rotation I've got planned in defense? Maybe we can just go about that.
Yeah,
Justin Vinagre Davies actually rotate quite well. I've had it written down over here. So the first game week, I would be benching Justin for West Brom away because I think Evans is suspended for that. Davies, Trent, and Vinagre would play. Then I think game week 2, Vinagre has Man City. So he would be benched that game week for Justin, who has Burnley at home. Then I think game week 3, Vinagre plays West Ham. Justin plays Man City. So that rotates pretty well. And then game week 4, Davies is away to United when Vinagre has Fulham at home and Justin has West Ham at home. So the defenders rotation takes care of itself for 4 game weeks. And if we can get one of Ferguson or Mitchell to play game week 3, then you can bench ASM also, who has United in game week 3. So this is just a tentative rotation I've got in mind.
That's a pretty nice plan. I must admit, I've got a Spurs defender now. I did have Dyer, but I might look at Davis now. You've mentioned him, Vinagre. So I might have a look at Justin, because right now he's not in my team. But if he rotates it, because I'm a big fan, that's what I do in my team as well. That's the only time I break out a spreadsheet is for defenders, to find out at which point do I have a defender that I don't want to play, and which defender could I get in that would suit that better. So yeah, I like rotation for defenders in particular. Obviously, you play Trent every week and then worry about the rest. Ferguson's an interesting one because there's reports today he's not even training yet. Obviously, there's still a couple of weeks to go. But you're right, you mentioned Mitchell. He should start the season if PVA is not fit. And there is Ben Johnson that people are talking about at West Ham. I don't know whether he's actually going to start.
But the fixtures are a bit rubbish anyway, I think.
Yeah, good for game week 1, but that's about it. Cool. All right, I think we'll leave it there. Like I said, Zophar, 7 top 10k finishes. So make sure you listen to what he says. If there's any players there that you were thinking about and haven't necessarily put into your team yet. If you do enjoy this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe as well. Got plenty more videos to come throughout pre-season. And I'll just say thanks very much for joining me.
My pleasure, Andy.
And I'm sure for having me. Yeah, and we'll have you on again at some point if it's not pre-season, during the season for Scoutcast and stuff like that. We'd love to get you back on for sure. And yeah, like I said, if you want any of the stats and stuff that we've been talking about and you want to check that out for yourself, there's a link in the description below. That is £17.50 to become a Fantasy Football Scout member before the 31st of August. After then, it goes to £20. So make sure you get signed up before then. Click that link in the description below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you tomorrow for another video.